what makes AI agents? AI agents basically are the top level of RAGs, right? So whether that is built into the agent, where they're a multi-model agent, or they are built together of different agents, for example, Whisper and ChatGPT. Hey, but before we get started at that, I've spent over 100 hours digging through different architectures, designs, and other people's systems to figure out what is the best way to build an AI SaaS system for success. If that's something you're interested in, check out the link below to get your own copy. And so this builds up. So as we look through here, the key difference is this. An LLM is the base infrastructure, right? You can think of this as AWS, right? So it's the base infrastructure. Then number two, the RAG, you can think of this as Fargate and RDS. So you have essentially interconnections. But then the AI agent is really the full application. So this is the holistic view of it. One of the things that makes it an agent is that it has data. It has this extra data that enhances what it does. So an AI agent is a RAG or LLM system that has the ability to do augmented data retrieval. So let's set this up. So with this AI agent, essentially, it has the ability to not only go in and read the database system or Excel or whatever else, it can also write to it. But the thing is, when we look at this database in here, right, if we blew this up, we would see that this table has sensitive data. And all database will have this in some form. We'll have some sets of records like this. When we look at having our LLM have access to this, what used to be the easiest way to get access to this sensitive data was actually go through a human. So what used to be the weak link was the human that had access to this. Now, instead of having an attacker come in and go try to phish the human, the alternative is that we can just go in here and just basically try things at scale with the agent. So instead of doing this, we need to set up something differently. So now we'll see something like this, where the data here has been replicated from the primary database over to basically a read-only database. And this data is now anonymized, where as the AI agent is interacting with this stuff and changing it and doing its own thing, it's now set in a way where it's safe. If you looked at a lot of the early issues with LLMs, they all came from basically hooking these agents up directly to the database and ingesting it without considering the data being sensitive. So this is where companies like Neosync would come in to be able to create those things. Now, they may not work for everybody everywhere, but I think this will become a much bigger item as we continue down the road into building AI agents. All these skills that and best practices at scale that we had to develop for Web 2, we're going to see these a lot more commonly in AI agents. For example, queuing, which you can go check out my past video on this here too. One of the key bottlenecks that I do see with this is that not all databases support CDC, let alone do it well. A lot of times you have to go to other systems, and they're typically stateful and hard to do. For example, Debezium, that tends to be the best one. Now, CNCF supports a project called CloudEvents. CloudEvents is a standardization of different events that allows essentially multiple systems to talk to each other. And you can see there's a lot of different supported events in here, and there are a lot on the open source side. Not every proprietary system supports them yet. I do see this taking off eventually, as this is quickly becoming the standard in the CNCF community to support having event-driven actions and workflows. Databases, by default, are going to have to start supporting CDC, change data capture, to going to read-only instances and multiple levels of different things, not only for analytics, but also for LLMs to be able to accurately and safely access this data. And this essentially gets down to the topic of OLTP, or online transaction processing databases, versus OLAP workloads. And they're very different and have very different databases. But I think we're going to see a lot more multi-model systems that'll support this kind of load, like Cassandra or ScyllaDB. Evis really made this a really nice point. AI agents will have access to your internal code base, and you will need safeguards in place to protect that data, 100%. Most AI agents will be rendered from providers. So how do you enable these agents to be effective yet protective of your sensitive data from leaking into the model's providers and potentially third parties? Isolated development environments with realistic data. 100%. This stuff is already a concern in most companies. And on top of that, it's only going to get more. You have to be able to manage your data well. And unfortunately, this also means we have to leverage SaaS that helps us leverage it well too.